a fabulous segue into one of the questions that I have here about technology. But before we get to that, in this room, you have a number of generations that are presented. And some in this room are parents with children who are either in college, getting ready to go to college. And some in this room are young people who are pursuing their education and they're in college. Not everybody has access to the years of study and in-depth knowledge that an apologist such as yourself has. What happens and what would you suggest to families, to moms and dads, that their sophomore, junior in college is coming home with questions about their faith that are difficult to answer? Or to the college student who is sitting in a classroom and listens to someone with a PhD that is well published and thought of totally denounce the foundations of their faith? How do they address that and do it effectively?
And that's real. We see this so visible in traveling around, whether it's here or the Middle East. I'm heading to Amman, Jordan tomorrow, and I'll be speaking there in the middle of the week. And they say the highest number of atheists ever in the Middle East is being spawned right even as you and I talk, because they've given up any hope in religious answers. So let me scroll that back a little bit first. If you have only waited till they are sophomores at universities to start teaching them how to defend their faith, you have already waited too long. Start much sooner than that, because a child's intellectual ability is far greater than you and I could actually ever imagine. You know, my grandson Jude is about 8 years old, and the questions he asks are quite amazing. When he studied about slavery in school when he was 7, came back home and the tears were running down his face. And my daughter, his mother, Naomi, said to him, "What's the matter?" She said, "How did this happen? How is there so much oppression for people like this, you know?" And so she started to talk to him and started getting books of Dr. Martin Luther King and William Wilberforce and all of that. Then he looked at my daughter, Naomi, and said, "Mom, I have a friend who's come from such and such a place. Do you think he will run into problems too as he grows up?" And Naomi said to him, "Why do you ask that?" Here's what he said at age 7. "My hypothesis is this."
Naomi, we're praying for you. We're praying for you, Naomi.
Where do they get that vocabulary from? They hypothesize. They think. They have theories. So the first advice I would give to you is minimize the visual viewing during the day and maximize the reading that makes the imagination more strong. You know, it is reading that stimulates the imagination, not viewing. Viewing can seduce the imagination. Reading can move you into the right kind of imagination. That's the first thing. So you start early. Talk to your children. Don't just model the Christian life. Teach them the right way. But once they get into their junior high years, you're walking through very treacherous terrain, Matt. What we have noticed in our Q&A times, in our forums with young people, 12, 13, 14-year-olds come to the microphones and they'll say something like this: "Can one of you on the platform tell me why I ought not to take my life?" We've heard them come right out and say that. "Because I have no meaning, I have no purpose." You see why? That which is on their hips now opens up the imagination to all kinds of vile thinking that once upon a time you had to go to a certain place to procure it. Now it comes to you by the press of a button. So they've experienced so much, it has left them lonelier than before. And that loneliness drives them to emptiness and a desire to take their own lives. This is at a huge level right now. Talk to your junior highs. Spend time with them. And don't just put them down on a couch and say, "Now you listen to me." Go to a ball game, and in the natural walk of life, they will open up and unburden their hearts to you. They are listening to thousands of voices in their early years. They should make sure they hear your voice too. And that voice should come with love, compassion, and instruction, so that when they go into